Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's the middle of the week once again, and that means only one thing. It is time for the Super Rugby preview for round number 7. And keeping with the 7s, we have 7 matches in store once again. That means 4 teams are having a bye. They are the Brumbies, who need a bye after getting thrashed as well by the Chiefs. The Cheetahs, the Rebels, who will still be probably celebrating and drinking after beating the other team that are now on a bye, the Waratahs. And boy, don't they need a bye as well after losing to the Rebels. What a round it was last round in round number 6. Plenty of upsets, plenty of tries, plenty of excitement. But we're in round number 7 now. We're going to have a look at what's coming up, give you my views, my opinions, and of course, my scores for this round of matches. So let's not mess about the bush. Let's get straight into it and kick off with our first match, where we are in the grand city of Hamilton, Waikato Stadium, for the amazing Chiefs up against the Blues. Now, the Blues and the Chiefs both coming off wins last weekend, and the Chiefs have a lot of big names returning to their team as well. None more so than in the second row, which looks, wow, so ominously good too, and looks bad for the Blues. But Retallick and Bird both returning to partner in the second row, which is massive news for the Chiefs. They will really, no end, will prop up their forward pack, which will look so much better than it has. They look so good, the Chiefs already. Their back line is functioning amazingly, and now their forward pack gets a massive boost like that. It's going to mean trouble for the Blues. Now the Chiefs last weekend, of course, destroyed the Brumbies, and it's hard to really look past them as a team that's going to lose. They look so hard to beat after the 6 rounds so far. As for the Blues, I think they did enough last weekend against the Jaguars. They're still very unconvincing. I don't really know where the Blues are going to end up here. They're last in the New Zealand Conference at the moment, and I just can't see them getting too much momentum, especially with such tough matches like they have this weekend with the Chiefs on Friday night away from home. It's looking bad for the Blues, and I'm calling the Chiefs to win this one convincingly. 46-24 is my scoreline. Chiefs over the Blues, a big one, another big one for the Waikato-based side. We make our way following that match over to Australia, where we're going to Perth, NIB Stadium, where the Western Force are up against the recent returning Crusaders from South Africa, in a match that could learn something about these two sides. The Crusaders, as we know, returning home with 2 glorious wins from South Africa, and they're a lot better looking side as well. I think they've really turned it on since going to South Africa. Their attack especially has improved 100 times over since their last 2 matches in South Africa against the Sharks. They weren't at their best, but I think their last match where they got that big one over the Lions, their attack really did come to the fore. I suspect, as every single season that goes by for the Crusaders, the slow start is something that always really kicks them when it comes to the end of the season, when they struggle to really get going. I think that's gone. I think their slow start is over, and they will look to get better and better as weeks go on here. They've looked a lot more impressive, especially over the last couple of weeks. How will the fatigue affect them is a question, though. They've been away for a couple of weeks, still yet to get home now. 3rd week on the road in South Africa, now Australia. They'll be itching to get back home to Christchurch. Will that tell in the way they play? Could be a big force over this match. Speaking of force, they've shown that they have the ability to step it up with the top teams in this competition. We seen last weekend against the Highlanders. They really put on a show. 14-0 very quickly out of the blocks, and really kept up the Highlanders for most of that match before falling away very late. The Highlanders are just a class outfit, and they're a hard team to really get on top of. But the Force, I think, showed that they could possibly be a team to upset later on in this competition as well, like the Rebels as well. There's a lot of teams that you just can't take a win for granted against anymore. The Force are a threat in this match, I have no question about it, and if the Crusaders, half of their mind is at home, they could find themselves behind the 8 ball in this one. I've still got them coming away with the win, 28 points to 15 over the Western Force, but I think there might be a few shady minds that are looking on the plane to get back into New Zealand, and it could tell against them. The Force back at home possibly could put together a good performance. 28-15 is my prediction. And we're not done yet for Friday night either. We make our way over to South Africa. Technically a Friday night match over there. We go to Newlands in Cape Town, where we'll be finding the Stormers back at home after the bye up against the Sunwolves. Now the Sunwolves, I think, have really blown a huge shot at their first win in Super Rugby last weekend against the Kings. Now, that was it. Golden opportunity. Get a win under your belt and start to push forward and upset some other sides. Get the monkey off the back. They couldn't do it, and I think now it looks really, really tough for them to get a win. The Stormers are back at home. They're coming off a bye, and I think this one could get ugly. The Sunwolves, they need to shut out the Stormers' attack, which can be very, very dangerous. But the other question is, can their attack break down the Stormers' defense, which can be very good as well? We've seen stalemates in the South African dummy matches earlier this season involving the Stormers, both very good on attack and defense when they choose to use one particularly well. The Sunwolves are really going to be up against it. They're really going to struggle in this one, I feel. And for that, I'm going with the Stormers at home with a big win, 43-17 over the Sunwolves, who are really going to struggle to find a win in Super Rugby following that loss last weekend. I hope they do find one, though, somewhere along the road. All right, into our fourth match of the weekend, and we are off to Westpac Stadium in Wellington, where the Hurricanes are back from the bye as well, and they are up against the Jaguars, or the Jaguars. Still no one in New Zealand who knows really what they want to call them, so we're still going with both, whatever. And this one could be big as well. I think the Jaguars need a win. They need another win. They look good straight off the mark in their first game, but they've really struggled to keep at the pace throughout the full 80 minutes of games and just haven't looked like they're going to crack that last vital play. They need to get wins. Now the Hurricanes coming back from the bye. They've got Julian Savea back in their starting 15, but I think this Hurricane side is going to be a little bit short of the title contenders like they were last season. And the Jaguars, they just look short too of being anything in terms of contenders. They should have beaten the Blues last weekend. They upset them. They outplayed them. They were just niggly. They were good, but they just weren't clinical enough to put them away. I think the Hurricanes may allow these mistakes to keep flowing. They may allow the Jaguars to break into the game. I think they'll play a similar sort of style. Both sides will like to throw the ball around and look to score some exciting tries. But both sides, I think, lack that clinical finishing that we spoke of last weekend about the Jaguars. Just that little touch at the end to put a game away is something the Jaguars and the Hurricanes could struggle with. I think it could be an entertaining match, but I think it could be quite a messy, mistake-ridden match as well. But final score for this one, I'm going with the home team by a whisker. 32-26 Hurricanes over Jaguars. Now, I'd love to be wrong. I really, really want to see the Jaguars get some more wins. But after their performance against the Blues, it's hard to see them really putting another team to the sword like we've seen from them in the early stages of the competition. But that's one match I would really love to be wrong about. And straight after that, on the Saturday night, we're off to Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, where the Reds will be up against the defending champions, the Highlanders. Now it's another team back from the bye and another team back at home. The much improved Reds have a lot to prove. This season has taken a huge turnaround after ditching their coach a few weeks ago and going with what they've already got established in the outfit. But they still have a long way to go. They've played a lot better rugby though, you've got to give them that, but I think the Highlanders may be a step too far for this improving red side. The Highlanders have been a team that's very slow off the mark in recent weeks. They finished very strongly, yes, but I think if the Reds are to have any chance in this match, they need to dominate the start, get a good lead, and then just slow the game down. Control the speed, not let the Highlanders do it, but as we know, that's a very, very difficult task. The Highlanders are a team that can dictate the pace of a game very easily, and as we know, a very, very hard team to beat as well. I think the Reds will give this a good stab, though. I think they'll throw everything at it. They have nothing to lose at all, and they can pull off a massive upset, you know. It'll make this season a little bit more bearable, and I think they might go a bit better now that they have a new setup at the top. But they're still going to go down to the Highlanders, and I've got them picking the win, 36-16 over the Reds. Couple of matches left in this one, and we're off to South Africa, Kings Park in Durban, where the Sharks are up against the Lions. Could be an interesting battle if it was between the actual two animals. One in the water, one on the land. Who knows what would happen there, but two very deadly animals and two very deadly teams on the rugby field as well. The Sharks, they know what's at stake here. They had a bye last weekend, of course, as well, and they're returning back to home. But I think what happened in their last match will still really be hurting them. The loss to the Crusaders right in the last death of the match in the last few minutes as well. That would have really kicked them in the guts, losing their undefeated run in the early stages of the competition. That will hurt the Sharks. Now the Lions, the last match they played last weekend also was against the Crusaders. That was a tri-fest, but equally as close between the two sides. So both these two teams' last match was against the Crusaders. Now the difference here is the Sharks defend and they strive to live off the mistakes of their opponents. The Lions, on the other hand, they just attack. They throw everything, including the kitchen sink, the bathroom sink, and any other sinks they can find around the stadium at their opponent's defense. So it's like two completely contrasting teams here. The Lions, a team that will attack, but not as much regard for the defensive side of the game, whereas the Sharks, a team that focus on defense and only look to attack when they're almost given a red carpet down a touchline to scamper away to score a try. A little bit of an exaggeration possibly, but the way these two sides will play against each other could make for an interesting match. Will the defense overwhelm the other's attack, or will the opposite happen? It's going to be interesting to see how this one folds out. Will the whole debacle over the Sharks coach abusing the TMO affect the side anyway at all as well? That's another aspect to involve into this Sharks-Lions meat pie that we have going on here. I think the Sharks are going to come out on top by a whisker here. I've got them 29-22 over the Lions. I think it's going to be an entertaining match, but it's going to be down to how clinical the Lions are, how they control their mistakes, and how little amount of errors they make during the game, and what the Sharks have to feed off, because if they don't have much, they could find themselves forcing their arm into attack, and that could favour the Lions. Last game of the weekend, it is the Kings at home to the Bulls, and I don't really have a huge amount to say about this one because I think the Bulls are going to just run away and blitz the Kings on this one. It should be one-way traffic. The Bulls look like they're going to be one of the top South African sides, fighting with the Sharks and the Lions as to be those top place sides out of Africa. The Kings, you've got to say, they deserve some credit for the way they battled to beat the Sunwolves last weekend, but against the better sides, you know, they just look completely out of their depth over the full 80 minutes. We know the Kings are a side that like to attack, and I hope we see more from that for them, because if they're going to get anything out of this game, they're going to have to chance their arm. It could lead to a big defeat, or it could possibly lead to good things for them. The Bulls, though, I think defensively they're going to be too strong, and the Kings are going to have to really throw every piece of attacking prowess they have at the Bulls to try and find that little spark that could ruffle the feathers of the Bulls. But I'm picking the Bulls to run away with it. The Kings will come back late and score a few fancy points after the Bulls have sealed this one up. But my final score will be 43-27 to the Bulls in our last match of the weekend on Saturday night. Sunday morning for you in New Zealand and Australia. And that is it. That wraps up our 7 matches for the weekend. What do you think about the matches this weekend? Who do you think is going to win every round? Feel free to leave your thoughts and your predictions in the comment section below. And as always, the closest or the most remarkable picks, if there's one or the other or the same, will get a special mention in the review video as we take a look back at my picks and what actually happened out there on the field. But for today, that is my time done and dusted. A look at our 7 matches for round 7 of Super Rugby in 2016. I hope you've all enjoyed this insight, and I hope it helps you well in your own picks this weekend. Be sure to get out there, enjoy the rugby, and have a good weekend. I'll see you all next week for the review. Until then, thanks for watching, and as always, take care.